The Orient. Even in difficult times, the yearning for the beauty and the mystery of the East is undiminished. But many places in Iran and Uzbekistan draw few visitors. Travelers are deterred by supposed dangers. But for that reason, a journey from Isfahan to Samarkand through hidden deserts and mountains remains one of the great dream routes for friends of the Orient. It is a legendary journey. The road to the most famous cities of the Orient. From Isfahan to Mashhad and on to Bukhara and Samarkand is more than 2,200 kilometers long. Our journey begins in Isfahan, the home of many ruling dynasties. Safavids, Sassanids, Seljuks, Mongols and Arabs have all left their traces in Iran, where minarets and the domes of mosques and madrasas abound. The colors, ornamentation, and calligraphies on the huge Imam Square, once known as the King Square, immerse the visitor in a strange but enchanting world. Isfahan is a magnet for pilgrims from all over the country. Foreigners too are drawn here to the Islamic Republic of Iran. Some harbor fears, which a young graduate from the religious school, a mullah by the name of Muhammad, impressively dispels.
In Arabic language it says, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم سيروا في الأرض وانظر كيف عاقبة المكذبين. It means travel in the earth and look at what happened in the history for someone who reject and deny truth. And I think it's a really great point when you travel in everywhere, in all over the world. Just look at the history, what happened to them, what happened to the people in the past. Some kings, some ordinary people who followed the truth, who reject that, and it's a great verse about that. I can tell you, you have heard lots of things about Islam, lots of things about Iran. Iran is very dangerous, lots of explosion. Muslim people are terrorists, they always carry some knife. And I can tell you, look at me, I'm Iranian and even I study in seminary school. And here is Iran. Here is in the middle of the Iran, in Isfahan. And I will tell you something, you cannot reject that. Iran is the safest place in the Middle East. Yeah, and the only way to prove it is come Iran and look at how is Iran.
The river that should normally flow through Isfahan and link its historic bridges is called Zayanda Rud, the river of life. But because of drought, the water is pumped off to other parts of the country, an indication of the growing ecological problems Iran is facing. But even without water, Isfahan's bridges from the Safavid era are still among the great attractions of Persian architecture, reminders of the heyday of Oriental art and culture along the Silk Road. And in Isfahan, church bells still ring out in the Armenian quarter even today. In addition to a Jewish community, Isfahan offered craftsmen and artists from Christian countries a home. Oriental tolerance. Located in the bazaar is the studio of Mr. Okavat, a master of the ancient Persian art of miniature painting. He draws his motifs from the love poetry written by Hafiz and Saadi. Mr. Okavat never abandoned his art even in difficult times. Even when virtually everyone stopped traveling to Iran, he remained true to his art because he says it is deeply rooted in the soul of Persia.
Iranians enjoy life and love poems about flowers and nightingales. Their favorite poets are Hafiz and Saadi, whose verse is extremely sensitive and full of emotion. This sensitivity is the reason why people like these miniatures, enjoy poetry and sing the poems of Hafiz and Saadi. Just as this art was able to survive difficult times over 1,000 years, it will continue to survive in the future. Because people need this art and the joy it gives them.
Nearby is another store which is linked to Iran's ancient image. Here, Mr. Hasim sells Persian carpets. Along with Aladdin's magic lamp, carpets are the classic symbols of the Orient. For Mr. Hasim, carpets are far more than a commodity. They're his life.
The most interesting things about these sort of pieces are that these are nomadic pieces and they think and make. Whole the design comes from their imagination. If I show you whole my carpet, you can never find two exactly the same because they think and make. And then we have classical carpet like this style. This is a classical carpet. I mean, to make something like this, there is pattern, design. They look and they make. You don't see any inconsistencies. But if we go through these, are full, and that's the beauty of the carpet, that they made it with love and they made it with heart. And I'm very proud of telling this that I'm an Iranian carpet dealer because it's the third biggest business after petrol and gas. A carpet like this, it takes at least a year to make it. Unfortunately, it's getting less and less because people, they prefer to work in factories and earn some money and not to spend a couple of months.
Our journey through Iran begins. It takes us into the desert from Isfahan to Yazd. Day and night, heavy trucks thunder over the well-constructed roads, taking goods from the Arabian Sea to all corners of the country. The hallmark of Yazd are its towers of silence, which date back to the days of the Zoroastrian fire cult. In ancient Iran, the bodies of deceased followers of Zarathustra were laid out for wild birds to feed on. The remains were then swept into a pit at the center of each tower. Zoroastrian fire temples can still be seen all over the country. The one in Yazd is particularly beautiful. The teachings of Zarathustra were the widespread religion in Persia 800 years before Christ, and long before Arab invaders brought Islam into the country. Today, the flame of the ancient religion is tolerated more than Islamic minorities, dervishes, or Sufis. There are many traces of history in Yazd. In the past, desert cities everywhere were cooled and ventilated with wind towers. Ancient qanats provided an underground supply of water via pipes and channels. The town is a busy place. Schoolgirls visit mosques and madrasas with their teachers, Islamic religious instruction, so to speak. Their fathers are busy elsewhere. In the mornings, men of all ages wearing sports shirts and shorts gather to pray. To the sound of drums, dozens of men start to perform gymnastic exercises in a ritual training program known as Zokhane. Zokhane too dates back to pre-Islamic times and has remained an institution through to the present day. The ceremony is led by the drummer Ali Reza Hajafi.
People in Persia love and respect this form of sport. They practice it because they see it as a timeless legacy from their forefathers. It's a kind of monument to the physical training of bygone days. This is a martial tradition that has been handed down from our ancestors. People enjoy this form of sport, but because it is difficult, not everyone is able to perform the strength exercises.
The warming-up program is followed by work with clubs. The size and weight of the clubs used depends on the age and physical condition of each participant. It's a training program for male associations that can be compared with the Turner movement in Europe. People kept fit without weapons, especially in times when superior forces from Arabia occupied the country. The songs being sung today are in honor of Ali, the Prophet's son-in-law.
The youth must accept the experience of those who are older, and they must pass on the doctrine of consideration and care for others to the younger generation. They must teach them how to look after the community. This is the only sport that can be performed in every age group. It combines both religion and character development.
Exercising with heavy iron bows indicates the old paramilitary character of Zokhane. In the concluding whirling dance, each participant shows his agility and power of expression. This can even lead to the trance-like state which, in the past, characterized the dervishes. Our journey continues along busy motorways. Today, because of the long embargo imposed by the West, many goods enter Iran by land and sea from China and India. Changes on an ancient trade route which takes us from Yazd to Kerman. The focal point of every historic town in Iran is the bazaar, which also usually embraces tea houses, bathhouses and mosques. Life here pulsates, and the range of goods on offer enables conclusions to be drawn as to the situation in the country. On markets in Iran, cheap goods from China dominate and are displacing local handicrafts. But for many young families on a low income, this is a blessing. Shortly before Nowruz, the Persian New Year, every family buys 7 talismans known as haft sim. A sales assistant explains the symbolism.
This is a special table decoration which we call Sofre-i Haft-Sin, the table with the 7 symbols. Just as St. Nicholas heralds the advent of Christmas in other countries, we have Haji Firuz and Nane Sama. Nane Sama comes to every town and ends the coldness of winter. The cultural symbols of our new year are seer, garlic, sikar, vinegar, sib, apple, somar, spicy fruit, senched, mulberry or dried olives, and samanu, a sweet pudding made from wheat. Each of these symbols stands for something. Seer, garlic, for health and well-being. Sikar, vinegar, for a long life and patience. Sib, apple, for loving care and the beautiful image of planting an apple seed in the ground and one day harvesting apples from a tree. Senched, the wild olive or mulberry, stands for love and compassion.
A decorative goldfish as a gift is also an absolute must. Iran and the entire Orient are covered by a network of tombs where Sufi saints were laid to rest. Shah Nematollah Valley was a Sufi master, and his shrine near Kerman is visited by large numbers of pilgrims. Islamic law in Iran regards Sufism as a form of superstition. However, the tombs of the saints are tolerated. After all, the Sufis were mediators between popular beliefs and incoming Islam. Today, the dervishes of Shah Nematollah Valley are scattered worldwide, and the order is led from London. Our journey is becoming more and more of an adventure with snow-covered mountains, high passes, and salt deserts by the roadside. There are over 50 arid regions in Iran, and the Lut Desert is the biggest, hottest, and most desolate collection of sand and salt in the country. It's also part of the world's natural heritage. In summer, temperatures of up to 70 degrees Celsius have been recorded here. The Lut Desert is famous for the mystical sand formations created solely by wind and erosion, the kaluts, as they're known. Strangers rarely venture into this hostile and sparsely populated region. But on the edge of the desert, we encounter human life once again. A camel breeder looking after his animals. During the daytime, the camels roam freely. At night, they're tethered again in the vicinity of the village. The animals are fed roots, which have been dug out of the sand and seem to be very tasty. The camel breeder examines his animals for any possible injuries or bite wounds. He also frees them from the biggest and most annoying plague in the desert, ticks. Mohammed told us about his life here.
The region here is really arid because it hardly ever rains. So to feed the camels, I have to buy straw, barley and other things. Even so, you can still live well here as a camel breeder. If only God would let more rain fall. But spring will soon be here. Then this is a paradise for breeders and camels. The animals provide us with good milk, and there's a big demand for their meat, which fetches high prices. What is more, the camels are used to people. They are tame, so you can ride them and take part in races. Most of the villagers keep their own camels and sheep. There is also a bit of agriculture here, mainly cereals and dates. The best profit is made from selling dates. But the powerful wind and storms in the desert are a problem. Harvests are affected and sometimes even destroyed. Otherwise, there are more than enough dates to be gathered here.
The name of the village is Des Salm. The central government has provided bricks for every household. It is March, and people here find the pleasant 28-degree temperature rather fresh. In summer, it gets twice as hot. The New Year festival is approaching, and in keeping with tradition, every household washes its carpets beforehand. Women in the desert wear bright colours, a pleasant contrast to the black garments seen in the towns. But before filming these women, you first need the permission of their husbands or fathers. In Des Salm, there is a modern workshop where carpets are woven. It's available to all the women, so anyone who has the time can work here. The money earned from selling the carpets is shared out. This is highly unusual and the result of work by an Iranian foundation which is striving to improve the quality of life of women in the countryside. The women are open, but shy and reserved when addressed. They don't want to say the wrong thing to visitors from abroad, so it takes a while before we can start up a conversation.
The women in the village work just as hard as the men. There is no difference. The day begins with household duties. The women make dough and bake bread. Afterwards, they go to the fields and cut grass for the sheep. Only then do they go on to the weaving shop and make mats and carpets. Women here show a lot of commitment. They really work hard. The villagers are hospitable and curious as well. They get the accommodation ready and go to great lengths in preparing the food. They like foreign visitors and take good care of them. I don't really know what else to say.
Mrs. Mohammadi is self-confident and not a bit shy. She doesn't have a husband to tell her what she can and can't do, and her brother doesn't interfere either. Persian women are self-assured, but in the countryside, fathers, brothers and husbands are far more dominant than in the towns and cities. From time immemorial, bread has been baked with the simplest of means in an earth oven. Every village, every region has a slightly different style. Sometimes the loaf is thicker, sometimes longer. But above all, it is the different decoration and texture that show where a loaf comes from. The daily demand for bread is huge. It's eaten at every meal, preferably oven fresh and crispy. Iran is 4 times the size of Germany and full of history. Like here by the roadside, excavation sites can be seen everywhere. This, for example, is a 400-year-old clay-built city from Safavid times. Even a layman can easily recognize traces of cultural achievements. Wind towers, sewage and water supply systems, pagodas, defensive walls, and caravanserais. Wherever you go and whatever you see, as a traveler in Iran, from day to day, your respect grows for the history and culture of an ancient people. We're approaching an important city on the Silk Route. Mashhad is a commercial center and the holiest place of Shiite Islam on Iranian soil. Every year, more than 30 million pilgrims travel to Mashhad to visit the mausoleum of Imam Reza. The tomb is also of enormous commercial importance. Pilgrims stay in hotels, go shopping, make donations, and very often bequeath their entire estate to the shrine. This is one reason for the vast wealth of Iran's second biggest city. The holy precinct around the tomb of the 8th Imam Reza is well guarded. Every pilgrim tries to linger here for as long as possible. Being allowed to experience without prejudice members of another religion on their most important pilgrimage is a memorable experience. Journeying on towards Bukhara and Samarkand, we reach Uzbekistan. The mountains of Uzbekistan are just bidding farewell to winter, and spring has yet to arrive. People are yearning for warmer days and are preparing to celebrate the new season with the Nowruz festival. In Iran, this spring festival lasts for 10 days. In Uzbekistan, everything is focused on just one day. Using sprouting winter barley, oil, flour, and walnuts, women in the villages spend many hours preparing a dish called sumalak. It is a tradition that is said to go back to the Mongol Khan Timur. The neighbors already gather in the early morning to stir the mass in a large vat and boil it. The mood is cheerful and getting increasingly exuberant. In the afternoon, after many hours, the sumalak has the right consistency, and can be dished out as the official food at the New Year festival. By now, celebrations are taking place everywhere. Uzbekistan is not an Islamic republic, and women are allowed to dance and rejoice in public. The state-organized New Year celebration for the surrounding towns and villages takes place in the middle of the countryside. Uzbekistan's most expensive pop stars have been hired. They charge up to $6,000 to perform at weddings. It's an official festival for the whole family, positioned somewhere between folklore and pop, between the traditional and the modern. For more than 2 generations, Uzbekistan was a Soviet republic. It is not only at the New Year's festival that the behavior patterns of that epoch are still visible. The men and boys in the mountains celebrate New Year in the traditional way, with a wild equestrian game known as Kupkare. A tractor transports a dead sheep into the steppe, and each rider tries to take possession of it. The rules are simple. It's illegal to hit someone in the face, insult an opponent, or drink vodka. However, only serious violations are punished. Injuries are part of the course. A commentator whips up the contest and praises the riders bringing back the sheep. Besides prestige, money and other prizes beckon. The passion for this sport seems infinite, and the contests go on for hours. The sumalak now has the right consistency. The dish is honoured, and the anticipation of enjoying this special New Year's pudding can be felt everywhere. Something that has been cooking for so long must be good, and the Mongol Khans saw sumalak as a source of energy and protection against illness. Nothing wrong with having a quick taste. The New Year's dish is distributed to every household and every family member. The taste is strange, a bit like bittersweet beer with nutty starch. But at all events, for people here, it is a long-awaited delicacy. In Uzbekistan, we have been invited by a family that has been living in the Sufi tradition for generations and is thus closer to Oriental law than normal Uzbeks. We're taking tea with the family of herbal doctor Sufi Tabib. He has a young wife and young children, but also grown-up sons. We try to understand what he does and how he lives. In the tradition of educated Orientals, he responds to our questions in French.
Je traite les hommes chaque jour.
I see my mission in helping people.
Malades chaque jour.
I care for many who are not well, up to 200 patients a day. We collect herbs for treatment purposes all year round. My children also help. At the same time, I live and spread the philosophy of the Sufis. My particular school of Sufism is Nosafardiya, which also integrates modern elements of Sufi doctrine.
On our way to Bukhara, Sufi Tabib and his son Ulugh Beg are showing us an ancient Sufi and Muslim site, which was even visited during the Soviet era. In those days, religion and spirituality were regarded as reactionary. Many traditions only survived in secret. This place holds a special significance for our hosts, and there is a reason for it.
Cette place s'appelle Quatre Frères.
This place is called Four Brothers. Why Four Brothers? Islam has its own explanation. But I know that the name Four Brothers refers to Sufism and three religions: Islam, Christianity, and Judaism. Why do I enjoy coming to the Four Brothers so much? I first came here in 1984 during the Soviet era. The site looked like a ruin. There were no proper buildings, just a pile of rubble. Nevertheless, we kept coming back here because I felt the good energy of our ancestors and the Sufis. And that is why I chose this place.
The two men allow us to watch them engage in the prayer ritual of the Sufis in a meditation retreat. It consists of rhythmically performed prayer mantras, a kind of vocal respiration which quickly leads to a trance-like state. Established Islam sees this as pure shamanism and superstition, but for Sufis, this form of prayer is the core of their religious practice.
In Sufism, this meditation is known as zikr. So there are breathing exercises, physical exercises, gymnastics, and zikr. It's a complex system. Why do we practice zikr? All Sufis practice zikr. The most important reason is to acquire the energy of God. Secondly, we want to develop inwardly, to progress towards personal perfection, to feel spirituality, and if the prerequisites exist, to aspire to divine knowledge.
For Sufi Tabib, martial arts are just as much a part of the exercise program as gymnastics, meditation, nutrition, cosmetics, calligraphy, and movement in nature. What he practices as a Sufi, Tabib also prescribes for his pupils and patients. And interest is great. In Central Asia, too, many people feel out of balance and are searching for answers. Sufi Tabib told us why.
La cause principale, je pense que les hommes.
In my view, people here too have begun to live in the modern world. They sit in their cars. They eat a lot. They don't do any physical activity or breathing exercises. But the greatest problem, I feel, is that they are losing spirituality. Their link with divine energy is tenuous. People can no longer absorb the breath of God. They cannot connect to it.
Sufi Tabib and his sons run several practices in Tashkent and Bukhara. These are located not in exclusive areas, but in prefabricated buildings where ordinary people live. Patients often come from neighboring countries. In the style of the ancient physicians of the Orient, Tabib establishes contact via the patient's pulse. He talks to his patients and shows care. As a rule, he prescribes herbal medicine, recommends movement exercises and meditation, gives dietary tips, and prescribes massages. He only does what he learned from his forefathers, he told us. There is also something else that links him to the great physician Abu Ali Sina, also known as Avicenna.
We use the great Avicenna's knowledge of the medicinal plants he studied, and no other methods. In our treatments, we rely on our ancestors, who from the 13th century on passed everything down from generation to generation. We apply their knowledge in our massages, in our brain treatments, in our use of medicinal plants, in diagnosis, and in gymnastic and breathing exercises. To complement that, and thanks to our own studies, we add a few new applications. That's all.
Located next door is the Sufi doctor's pharmacy, where patients can obtain the remedies that have been prescribed. All the medication, tinctures, teas and oils are made from Uzbek herbs and roots. They're said to be effective against virtually everything. Prices are affordable. In Uzbekistan, only the upper class can afford the expensive drugs manufactured by international pharmaceutical companies. Roots and herbs are collected all year round. In winter, certain plants are found in the deserts. In summer, Uzbekistan is full of herbs, and in autumn, herbs are harvested in the mountains. The herbs and roots are stored at central locations where they're also mixed and processed in line with ancient formulas and mixing ratios. Most of the several dozen people who work in the herb factory belong to the Sufi Tabib clan. His son Ulugh Beg is in charge here.
We have trees of generation. Sufi Tabib is 14th. I am the 15th. So Sufi Tabib knows 14th his fathers and grandfathers and grandfathers.
Finally, the medications are bottled and labelled. Many products are also sent to regular customers as far afield as Russia. The market for herbal products is booming, and in Uzbekistan, everyone is happy to have an income. The staff all eat together according to the national custom, sitting on the ground in nomad style. The table is laid with far more food than they could ever eat. Only the work uniforms are a slight reminder of former Soviet days. At one time, Bukhara was one of the great cities of the Orient, a trading center with splendid buildings. It was a place of religious tolerance. In the past, Bukhara belonged to the great Persian Empire, and the Emir of Bukhara held sway over large parts of Central Asia. Sufi Tabib has brought us to the Jewish cemetery in Bukhara. He wants to remind us of the days of cultural diversity and religious tolerance, which he wishes for Uzbekistan in the future too.
Bukhara has always been a center of religion, but not just of Islam. Jews and Christians were also here. The doctrine of Sufism was also highly developed here. And why did Bukhara become a center of religion? It's because many Sufis came here, and the mental attitude was very sophisticated. Sufism accepts all religions because it has never turned against any religion. It works with religions. It tolerates religions because Sufism is found in all religions. We are here at the Jewish cemetery, and you can see how well it has been preserved here in Uzbekistan.
Bukhara still has a lively Jewish community with 2 synagogues, schools and kindergartens. However, the number of community members is steadily declining. For Jews in Uzbekistan, it is easy to emigrate to America or Israel. The final stage of our journey to the Orient takes us to Samarkand, a place of yearning and a historic center of scholarship in science and architecture. This is an important place, especially in times when some people associate the terms Orient and Islam with danger. In Samarkand, Sufi Tabib told us about the history of the region and expressed his hopes for the inspirational effect of former ties.
L'Asie centrale,
Up until the 16th century, Central Asia was highly developed.
pourquoi?
That was because Central Asia was the center of Sufism.
Du soufisme.
All Sufi schools worldwide came here to spread their knowledge and to pursue their studies.
Activité.
They played a leading role in mathematics, physics, algebra, and so on. There were many sciences here, but when the official religion came to Uzbekistan, everything was destroyed.
In the 15th century, Ulugh Beg was a ruler in Samarkand who gave great service to science. The local puppet theatre still portrays the grandson of Mughal Khan Timur as a sensitive ruler. Ulugh Beg, in a blue cloak, a monarch for whom books and observing his beloved stars were more important than power and intrigue. In the 15th century, Ulugh Beg had this impressive observatory built in Samarkand. Today it once again receives lots of visitors. Back then, using a 40-meter-long sextant, the Oriental ruler succeeded in calculating a stellar year with little deviation from modern-day measurements. Ulugh Beg also observed hundreds of celestial bodies. This offended Islamic clergy of the day. They ended Ulugh Beg's rule and destroyed the observatory. We take our leave of the Orient. The buildings in Samarkand are again resplendent in their former beauty and are thus reconciled with the abysses of history. The Grand Trunk Road runs from Kolkata to Benares, along the Ganges to Delhi. It crosses the Pakistani border and continues on to Lahore and Peshawar. Our journey begins in the Sundarbans on the Gulf of Bengal. These mangrove forests in the south are still the habitat of Bengal tigers and crocodiles. In this nature reserve where salt water and fresh water intermingle, the wildlife has adapted perfectly. European mariners and merchants landed in India in the 16th century. Back then, the coastal regions on the Gulf of Bengal still looked just like the Sundarbans today. For centuries, ships from Europe anchored here before returning home, laden with treasures and goods from this vast land. In order to develop, rule, and exploit the subcontinent more efficiently, the British brought goods from all over India via the Grand Trunk Road. As a result, small villages in nearby Kolkata grew into a trading centre of outstanding importance, and a special place for the start of our journey. The buildings in this city of 15 million are a reminder of colonial times. At the moment, it's bedlam here. For 10 days, the people of Kolkata will be celebrating an important religious festival, the Durga Puja. Throughout the Hindu world, but especially in Kolkata in West Bengal, the faithful are awaiting the arrival of Durga, the great maternal deity, in all her manifestations. Something different takes place every day. The focus today is on banana plants. People take them with them on their ritual bath in the Ganges. In doing so, they pay homage to the fertility of plants that provide food. The faithful believe that the plants can also conceal aspects of the great goddess Durga. The festival is also an economic factor in Kolkata. The central flower market is a hive of activity. Every household is decorated for the festival. Countless garlands of flowers are needed for processions and altars. Families give one another flowers and invite one another to come and visit. Vast quantities of flowers and posies are turned over here and distributed to the smaller markets in the suburbs. This provides small traders, flower arrangers and vendors with an income, so they too profit from the festival of the great goddess Durga. Another suburb in Kolkata lives from producing statues of deities for the altars and processions during Durga Puja. Hundreds of thousands of figurines are made throughout the year and sold to households, neighborhood communities, firms and private individuals. The sculptures are elaborately crafted from wood, clay and papier-mâché in hundreds of small workshops. Work goes on all year round because demand during Durga Puja is huge. The figurines are thoroughly sandpapered, painted, made non-slip and adorned with splendid garments. It takes many steps to create these sculptures in such a way that aspects of the goddess Durga are recognizable. The aim is to attract deities to come and linger in the statues for the duration of the festival. This calls for massive effort and a great love of detail for a celebration that lasts only a few days. Families get together and visit one another for the festival. The roads are even more congested than normal. Garlands of flowers from the wholesale market are sold on in the streets. Red powder for facial decoration is in great demand. Although the monsoon season is actually over, there are constant downpours. Climate change long since reached India too. It is particularly crowded around the temple to the goddess Kali. A visit here during the festival is a sacred duty for every Hindu. Residents have erected temples in every street just for the visits of the gods during Durga Puja. The city's great merchant families invite people into their houses. The exterior gives no indication of the splendor inside. During the puja, everyone is welcome and catered for, and allowed to marvel at the house altar and the lavish decorations. This is where the huge families come together, as well as friends, guests, and visitors from the street. In every family, like the Maliks here, one of the older brothers is responsible for the spiritual procedures and observation of the rituals.
Blessing of the gods, we should continue and put our the efforts to continue this puja and everything and performing, because we know that the puja means that is the assembling of the soul and of every man and woman and child and children and everywhere they are assembled here, and they are whatever they are within the entire year. Maybe some others we are cannot contact with it, but during the puja everywhere is they are here, and we are sharing our the views and we are enjoying the Durga Puja.
In the streets too, people flock to the specially erected temples. Naturally, Durga Puja is a media event not only in Bengal, but throughout India. For days now, journalist Puja has been reporting hourly on the festival for India's main news channel. This particular day is dedicated to married women and mothers.
This is the last day. It is said that Durga, she is going back to her own place. This is the time she comes back to her mother's place, and now she is going back to her in-laws' place. So, this is a vermilion that we use. It's very auspicious for us. All the married ladies, they use this vermilion, and so they put a vermilion in mother's face. And like this way, they celebrate, and this is the time of celebration. We are actually associated with this festival from our birth. Like, we are born with this festival, we can say. So, like, the young and the old, they all participate in this festival, and this is the festival we look forward to throughout the year.
The festival is over and the altars are being taken down. The deities have left them and the people here are happy. Not just in Kolkata, throughout the entire Hindu world, the altars, some of which are very heavy, are dismantled and taken to holy lakes and rivers. They have served their purpose and offered the gods a home during the festival. But as Hinduism teaches, everything is transient, even if it was created at great cost and effort. At one time on this particular day, hundreds of thousands of divine images could be seen floating in the Ganges and the country's other rivers. But for some years now, the requirements of environmental protection have curbed this practice. The altars and the effigies of deities are still thrown into the water, but the refuse collection services fish them out of the Ganges again and dispose of them. Nothing remains of the lovingly made sculptures with their brocade fabrics, their colours and their wigs. The British took their culture to India with them. Their religion, their troops, their legal system and their palaces. Even today, many years since India achieved independence in 1947, the colonial era is still noticeable, also through the Victorian buildings and symbols. With a last look at Queen Victoria, we begin our journey. Our first destinations from Kolkata are Bodh Gaya and Varanasi on the sacred river Ganges. Throughout India and Pakistan, the Grand Trunk Road is known simply as the GT Road. Outside Kolkata, it is just a little street with lots of hustle and bustle by the roadside. Along the way, there are constant reminders of the colonial era. French locations expressing the ideal of liberty, equality, and fraternity. Danish churches and trading houses stand close to Christian churches from the days of the Portuguese, who settled in India even before the British. Today, this complex is run by the Don Bosco Order of Salesian monks. It is visited by many local inhabitants. Father Francis returned here after several years spent at various locations around the world on behalf of his order. He's been surprised by many things.
From all religions, they come, flock, as you see now at this very moment. They are not all Catholics or Christians. They belong to different religions, but they all unite in showing their devotion and love to Mother Mary. And it is something nice to know that we Indians, though we belong to different cultures, languages, and castes, we come together as one family. Mother Teresa has captured the heart of all Indians, not only India, I would say all world, but in India, especially in Calcutta, she is so much loved. In fact, when she died, you should have seen the crowd of people going to her with the flowers to show the last respects to her. And everyone was moved. And it was, so to say, loss for us, her passing away. And we are so happy today she is a saint.
We've covered the first 500 kilometers on the GT road, but another 2,000 still lie ahead. In Bihar province, we experience rural India. Over 800 million Indians live in the most basic circumstances as farmers or harvesters. They work in the fields and tend livestock. Occasionally, we come across a brickyard. The bricks fired here are made of clay, brought by the waters of the Ganges and used here for thousands of years. This stupa dates back to the days of the Buddha. For us, it marks the start of an encounter with another world religion on the Grand Trunk Road. In the poor federal state of Bihar, the places where the Buddha taught, meditated, or preached are a magnet for visitors. People come here from all over the world and visit this stupa on their way to Bodh Gaya, where, according to legend, the great Gautama Buddha found enlightenment. Thus, on the Grand Trunk Road, we reach the Mecca of the Buddhist world and immerse ourselves in religious history dating back 6 centuries before Jesus Christ. In Bodh Gaya, we've arranged to meet Indian doctor Tanu Varma. We find her at the yoga exercises she does every morning. Dr. Varma cares for children at welfare schools all over India, where she reintroduces traditional forms of yoga and meditation. Dr. Varma is a Hindu, but it is also perfectly natural for her to visit the holy sites of Buddhism in Bodh Gaya.
I'm a Hindu, but Lord Buddha, he gave us a path of enlightenment. I never compare like Lord Buddha as a Buddhist or Hindu, because the final path, everyone has to get the aim of life, and that is enlightenment. Everyone have to travel from a different way, but everyone have to reach a same place. So for me, Lord Buddha as my role model, and he was a married person, he married, he lived his life, but he really shows the people what is the suffering and how to get off suffering from all the problems of life, from the practices in a very normal way, in a very simple way.
For Tanu Varma, yoga is far more than physical exercise. In India, yoga is again being used more and more to treat illness, from concentration disorders to diabetes. It's an important element of her projects with children.
According to ancient scripture, diseases always come first in the mind and then it's entered in the body. So when we practice yoga, our mind, our mental status always get relaxed and we are able to get right decisions.
Tanu Varma also visits schools in Bodh Gaya that are part of her project. Welfare schools financed with donations. At these institutions, this young doctor has had great success in reintroducing breathing and concentration exercises adopted from yoga. The children come from the poorest families, which do not practice these ancient health theories from the Vedas, the holy scriptures of Hinduism. Tanu Varma teaches the exercises in a friendly but strict and precise way.
Thank you very much to all of you. Sabhi log roz practice karenge na?
Like millions of people, every year Tanu Varma visits the holy sites in Bodh Gaya around the Bodhi Tree, also known as the Wisdom Tree. This is where the Buddha is said to have meditated and found his way. This place is just as important to Buddhists as Jerusalem, Mecca, or Rome are to other religions. Visitors come from the world's many Buddhist countries, but the story of Siddhartha, the son of a king, is famous almost everywhere. When he saw the suffering in the world, he decided to abandon his old life. It's a story that still touches people today and moves them to travel here to pray and to meditate.
Siddhartha came back to palace and he asked his father, his aunt, and for everyone, what is the way to get rid of suffering? And he asked permission from anyone. I want to find a path. What is the way to get rid of sufferings? And then the same day, he left the house, he left his wife and his son. He really loved them, but he wanted to get rid of all the sufferings for humanity.
This is where Siddhartha found enlightenment 2,500 years ago. And Tanu enjoys meditating deeply here. It's a wonderful place, visited by people who have yearned to be here and who conduct themselves accordingly. No one here is controlled. Buddhism, it is said, is more of a philosophy than a religion. The impression gained is that many people here have found peace.
Lord Buddha said, whatever you have or whatever you need, just try to be satisfied with that much things. Don't try to be too much greedy. If you are too much greedy, you never be satisfied and you never be happy.
But the large statue of the Buddha, we take our leave of Tanu Varma and Bodh Gaya, a place that is very special. The Grand Trunk Road has become an Indian motorway. We're approaching Varanasi on the Ganges, the holiest city in Hinduism. It's early morning on the sacred river in Varanasi. Hundreds of thousands of people are joyfully taking a ritual bath. This is an exceptional moment in the life of any Hindu pilgrim. Anyone who bathes here in the Ganges, or even dies here, stands the greatest possible chance of escaping from the cycle of rebirth and entering nirvana. Varanasi was already an ancient place of pilgrimage when Rome was founded. The city of Lord Shiva on the Ganges has been a cultural and religious centre for over 3,000 years. On average, it is visited by 100,000 pilgrims every day, or 36 million a year. On the banks of the holy river, priests belonging to the Brahmin caste sit under large sunshades. After bathing in the Ganges and having spruced up, each pilgrim goes to see a priest.
I am a priest here. People come round all over the India. They come to me because the Brahman, the highest caste of the Hindu religion. So they come to me to have a blessing. So many kind of people come, like people come just for blessing, people come from bring the ashes for the parent, people come for also the who parents die, they do the pinda karma. So different kind of people come want to marry, people come want to wish something. So many kind of people come in. So it's going to be different karma. So we are the Brahman and we have to know the Vedas to know about that karma. So if people come here, then we bless them, they give some money.
The Brahmin priests have taken over their job, and and the place where they sit from their fathers and forefathers. The yogis, with their begging bowls, also defend their traditional spots, which are passed by most of the pilgrims. Here in the city of Lord Shiva, the visitors are generous, and most of them no longer expect much from this earthly life.
It means people want to come to die here to get the nirvana. So incarnation of this place, even one stone's like a Shiva. Where are you seat? This is also like a Shiva. So just why there is special? Because of the Shiva. All stones like Shiva Lingam. So in the earth is like a magnet. When people come, they feel like a home, joined with this magnet. In the world, two places is very holy and very powerful. First is Varanasi and second in Jerusalem.
The stream of pilgrims never abates, even at night. On the contrary, buying flower lights and making a flower lady happy is extremely popular. This ritual is known as Ganja Aarti. It is the start of a magical night by the Ganges. Buying a small light and letting it float on the river is a devotional ritual that uses fire as an offering. That alone makes it something the faithful should aspire to. When it is completely dark, the actual fire ritual gets underway. Clad in ceremonial clothing, chosen priests from the Brahmin caste celebrate it for several hours every night. Depending on the sensibilities of the observer, it's an atmosphere ranging from spiritual magic to religious show. Varanasi used to be known as Benares. In fact, its original name was Kashi, which means City of Light. The nightly Hindu ritual in Lord Shiva's metropolis does credit to a place that is thousands of years old. The Grand Trunk Road continues through the Indian capital, New Delhi. The Red Fort is a reminder of the cultural influences of the Mughal era and prepares us for an exciting border crossing into Pakistan. Before the British colonists left, they divided the subcontinent into two states, one Hindu, the other Muslim, a partition which has led to constant conflicts. Every evening, a ritual, which is probably unique worldwide, takes place at the heavily guarded Indo-Pakistani border crossing near Lahore. To the delight of the many spectators, Pakistan's border unit demonstrates its defensive potential, goose-stepping and dressed in the style of the old colonial army. The same martial posturing takes place on the Indian side, vis-à-vis the hostile sister state. Just before sunset, something exceptional happens. The border gate opens and the troop of guards from each country face one another, ready to lower their respective flag. The Indian soldiers with their red headdresses and the Pakistanis in grey and black now move into top gear. To the cheers of the delighted onlookers, they show how dangerous they can be. But despite all the enmity, the overall impression is that the two sides are not prepared to renounce what they have in common. The armies of the two countries have fought wars against each other and sustained heavy losses. And there are still constant military clashes in Kashmir and the Himalayas. Nevertheless, this absurd border performance still takes place every evening as the two sides lower their flags together. Then the border is closed on both sides, and the flags taken to a safe place for the night. Built in the days of Mughal rule, the fort in Lahore is one of the most important cultural monuments on the subcontinent and is a World Cultural Heritage Site. Similar architectural styles can be found in Delhi and Agra. Were Lahore located in India, cultural travelers from many countries would come here every day. But Pakistan has an image problem, so only a handful of indigenous visitors stroll around an area of 20 hectares. The paintings and the architecture recall the 300 years in which Muslim Mughals from modern-day Uzbekistan ruled in ancient India. The Grand Trunk Road ran directly from New Delhi to Lahore, linking two cultural and commercial centres in colonial India. The Delhi Gate in the Old Town in Lahore was intended solely for goods traffic with India's modern-day capital. The Delhi Gate is still one of the entrances to the walled city, Lahore's historic Old Town. After weeks in India, the traveller feels like he is in the Muslim quarter of an Indian city. Life here takes place in the streets. Open-air restaurants, lots of hustle and bustle, traders, and far more men than women out and about. No one described the mood in Lahore and on the Grand Trunk Road better than English writer Rudyard Kipling. Pakistani journalist Jari Jalil knows the history of Rudyard Kipling, his descriptions of Lahore and the Grand Trunk Road. A critical spirit, Jari Jalil works for the Dawn newspaper. This bookshop has many of Kipling's works on offer. Not only The Jungle Book, but also Kim, the novel which earned him the 1907 Nobel Prize for Literature. In it, Kipling describes the life of Kim, an Irish orphan, on the Grand Trunk Road in the colonial era. The novel is regarded as a unique document of living conditions in Lahore and on the road at the time.
Well, actually, I think there's a lot of similarity in what the Grand Trunk Road is, how it's described in this book and how it is today. Because in this book, it's said to be a river of life. And I think today it's very, very true because there's so many random people that you meet on the Grand Trunk Road. There are sellers, salesmen, and there are trucks and buses going along, and people walking along the trunk road. You know, there's so much like crowd over there. And in the book, it was exactly the same way. So there's so much life. But essentially, the whole land of Pakistan, and we're talking about the Grand Trunk Road, so that brings us back to pre-partition India, British India. The whole land, even from that time till today, it's not supposed to be militant. It's a land full of liberalism, freedom. It's a land of people who want to believe in whatever they will want to believe. So historically speaking, it's not meant to be like that. But now it's becoming worse slowly.
Pakistan is different in ways that few people can imagine. No one would expect to find girl footballers training in public in shorts and without wearing a headscarf. But that too is possible. Not to say, however, that the girls aren't a contentious issue. At times they have to face criticism, even within their own families.
Some parents didn't allow their children, but most of them allow their children to play.
Many people criticize because we are in Islamic Republic of Pakistan. So people think that playing football is something like a shame, or wearing shorts and socks, and this, people call it a shame. And when we say that we play football, they'll be like, oh my God, you play football. So when someone is trying to play, they try to criticize and kill their dreams. We believe that we can bring change if we can, if we are together and we play such games in which females are not prominent, or they are not playing, or they are restricted.
Over the last decade, fundamentalism and violence have been on the increase in Pakistan. But many people refuse to accept this. They want to preserve the diverse and liberal Pakistan of the past. Our journey along the Grand Trunk Road continues as we head towards the border with Afghanistan. Right next to the main highway, we find a section of the old road from colonial times that has been preserved. A narrow, cobbled strip which at one time was used solely by ox carts, caravans, riders and pedestrians. Today, the Grand Trunk Road is dominated by colourfully painted Pakistani trucks. The pride and joy of any Pakistani haulier or driver is the personalised way his truck is decorated. On the Grand Trunk Road, there is one paint shop next to another, and these businesses earn good money for their customised art. Depending on customer requirements, trucks are decorated with flowers, ornaments, or verses from the Quran. And money seems to be no problem. Clients are prepared to pay up to $800 to have their trucks painted. And that's a lot of money in this part of the world. Sometimes hauliers also have themselves portrayed on their vehicles. But in this case, it seems that the mustachioed truck owner had handed over a picture from his youth for use as a template. On our journey, we've reached the second important river on the subcontinent. What the Ganges is to India, the Indus is to Pakistan. The two rivers are lifelines, bringing water and fertility from the Himalayas to arid regions. The route is getting rockier, and the mountains of Afghanistan closer. In recent years, this region has only been associated with violence and bombings. In the great game played by the world powers, Peshawar, our final destination, is a city that has particularly suffered. On large posters, the inhabitants of Peshawar stress that they are not terrorists. They're fighting for their image, a difficult task. The tribal areas are constant trouble spots, and the proximity of the border sees violence flare up time and again. For us too, the Grand Trunk Road comes to an end at the historic Khyber Pass. The reason, we were told, is that the army is engaged in a punitive operation near the border. Peshawar is actually an ancient Indian trading centre. The British recognised and exploited its commercial importance early on. Most of the population are Pashtuns, a people who are said to be proud and reliable, and exceptionally stubborn. The traditional food in Peshawar is legendary. One particular delicacy is spicy kebabs. Mixed with the scent of the street, they're fried in hot oil. Since the 1980s, Peshawar has provided a home for many refugees from Afghanistan, and they're particularly skillful in working with lapis lazuli. The most important veins of this blue stone lie in Afghanistan, and lapis lazuli can be smuggled into Peshawar without any problem. The profit margin in the trade with lapis lazuli and gems is roughly as high as in the drugs trade. Many Afghan refugee families have been forced to earn their livelihood from the stone. Afghan traders know all the tricks. Today, to fetch a higher price, lapis lazuli products are sometimes stained. But Afghans know this and are on their guard. Genuinely pure lumps of lapis lazuli can fetch between $1,000 and $10,000 per kilogram. The stones usually end up in Singapore or China. Peshawar is a trading center, and for that reason alone, this is a cosmopolitan city. But Peshawar's recent history is so horrific as to be almost inconceivable. Shiite mosques are attacked time and again, but undeterred, the faithful still come to pray. Here we made the acquaintance of cardiologist Dr. Hamid Ahmed. He practices in a neighboring hospital, and in his breaks he comes to the mosque to pray.
Whenever there is a blast, the injured persons and dead bodies come straight to our hospital, that is Lady Reading Hospital, where I am working. So that time is very terrible because people are just listening about the blast, but we are seeing it, and we see people with lot of injuries. And then first time when this relative of that dead person or injured person reach to the hospital, they meet each other, and that those scenes are very, very difficult to face. Everything is in doubt. Nobody is clear who is attacking and who is attacking for what purpose. But it seems to be involvement of different powers with different interests, and these powers are within the country and outside the country. So I can't elaborate it because we have very little knowledge about it.
As always, in the Afghan border region too, a look back at the history of this part of the Grand Trunk Road is helpful. The great game played by the powerful nations for strategic positions, trade routes, and spheres of influence has always been particularly pronounced here. Nevertheless, along the Grand Trunk Road, we've experienced the peaceful coexistence of different cultures and religions. Probably nowhere else in the world can such diversity still be admired on a road that is 2,500 kilometers long. Home to peaks well over 7,000 meters high, and enclosed by China, Uzbekistan, Kazakhstan, and Afghanistan, the Pamir lies in the heart of Central Asia. Our journey along the Pamir Highway begins in Dushanbe, the capital of Tajikistan. It will take us along the river Panj, which forms the border with Afghanistan, through the Wakhan corridor, then 1,300 kilometers on to Osh. Our final destination is Bishkek, the capital of Kyrgyzstan. Dushanbe means Monday. A century ago, this was still an insignificant hamlet. It was only during the Soviet era that Dushanbe developed into a city. When Tajikistan gained independence in 1991, Dushanbe became the country's capital. After a long civil war, this young nation is again fostering the Oriental traditions of Central Asia. The wisdom and learning of the East are assuming importance once more. The grandiose government buildings in the Tajik capital stand out through a wealth of oriental ornamentation. The visitor feels that he has arrived in some splendid Central Asian metropolis. Yet despite all the splendor on display, Tajikistan is still one of the world's poorest countries. In order to feed their families, most of the men have to find jobs in Russia as guest workers. Yet there is still an upper class which celebrates parties here. Located near the young capital Dushanbe are ancient excavation sites like Hisar, where finds date back over 3,000 years to prehistoric times. This region was settled even in the Stone Age. Before the Bolsheviks occupied this region of Central Asia for the Soviet Union, this fortress was part of the sphere of influence of the Emir of Bukhara, a powerful feudal ruler at the time. Today, these sites in Tajikistan are cultivated, protected by UNESCO, and presented to visitors with pride. Barely 60 years old, Dushanbe is a young city. The architecture reflects the Soviet era, with broad streets, green zones, and avenues. 90% of the population are Sunni Muslims, but many Western faces and styles are also seen on the streets of Dushanbe. Roxana, the wife of Alexander the Great, was a Tajik. It was she who established the reputation women here have of being exceptionally beautiful and self-confident. In Dushanbe, we made the acquaintance of Parvina, a young woman who deals in Tajik works of art. Parvina supplies international trade fairs and local businesses.
My name is Parvina. I am actually from Pamir, but I'm living here in Tajikistan. I'm working with Pamir handmade products, which we are as a community based in Tajikistan, and we do this type of handmade stuff. So this is a special hat. This is handmade, and this embroidery is also made handmade. So you can see how does it looks. And so this is what actually our national Kolkata, which we do.
The owner of the store is chatting to Parvina in Tajik, a variety of Persian.
Our country is really Muslim country, but it's by geographic information, it's 95% of Muslim and 5%, let's say, some Christian, some less of them Catholic. So that's it. But at all, our Muslims are also free. They can freely choose what they want to wear. They educated. Only it depends on the family. It depends on the family. And the parents, what they going to teach their children, what to wear. And actually this is free. Nobody, not government, not religion, push you to wear what you should. You can choose. You have a freedom. You can choose what you're wearing, how you're going to live your life.
We leave Dushanbe and begin our journey on the Pamir Highway along the border with Afghanistan. The road is used by powerful Chinese trucks, returning to China with minerals after having brought in cheap goods to flood the local market. The highway soon follows the Panj River, the natural border between Tajikistan and Afghanistan. Afghan villages are visible on the far bank. Driving is a challenge, and the big trucks don't exactly improve the condition of the road. In Korog, we visit the Aga Khan Foundation to learn more about the state of this mountain region. The manager responsible for it is Kishwa Abdualisha, and he's happy to provide us with information.
For sure, like Tajikistan as a very young, which got independence just very recently from the Soviet Union. And as part of Soviet Union, we were dependent on the other republics of the Soviet Union, economically, socially. And as all those, links, relationships, particularly economic links, are cut now, we have to reestablish everything. So we have to build roads. We have to, improve the, the communication systems. We have to build a lot of bridges. We have to revive the agriculture sector. We have to revive, the tourism sector, the industrial sector. But, the good news is there is progress.
Before reaching the Pamir, we visit a place people here are particularly proud of. The hot springs of Garm Chashma are said to have healing properties that help cure skin diseases and other health problems. Men and women alternately bathe here. Since bathers wear hardly any clothes, we were not allowed to film. After all, this is a Muslim country. Garm Chashma is 2,500 meters above sea level. The place is a reminder that even the mountains bordering the roof of the world are geologically very young and still not at rest. The landscape is barren. It is only along the rivers that people have settled, planted trees and grown rice. Young men are a rare sight. It is mainly the elderly and women with children who live on the farms. We heard of an old man here who still makes and plays Central Asian instruments in the traditional way. Ever since Chinese goods began to flood Central Asia, it is a handicraft that has become rare and, from a commercial point of view, is now hardly worthwhile. Masein Maseinov represented the culture of the Tajiks in the Pamir even during the days of the Soviet Union. He learned the art from his father. Maseinov was once also the local village schoolmaster. His instruments are fashioned with gouges, files, and other basic carpentry tools. Inside the house, the maestro showed us finished instruments from his collection and told us about his profession.
To make musical instruments, you need unusually strong wood, wood that won't splinter or break. That is why most of our traditional instruments are made from the wood of trees that bear fruit. The most suitable type of wood comes from the mulberry tree. It hardly ever splinters. So it is especially suitable for making the rubab, which the Pamiri play. We don't buy any wood from other countries. We are offered good wood in places like Korog. We examine it, buy it, and bring it here. Only wood from this region is suitable. It's strong and resistant. It doesn't crack, and since it hardly rots, it preserves its quality for a long time.
The maestro fashions his instruments in a highly personal style. These unique specimens have no need to fear mass-produced goods. The impressions made by the few villages along the route are all similar. Lots of small homesteads with fruit and vegetable gardens and a few domestic animals. Only women and children are to be seen. When we ask about the menfolk, the answer is virtually the same everywhere. They've left to work abroad. They send money, the women say, but rarely come home. There is virtually no other source of income. By chance, we spotted a group of women who meet to do handicraft work together. They embroider, crochet, braid, and sew in Pamiri style. The women are colourfully dressed and feel at ease with strangers. They make their products for traders who sell them in the towns or even abroad. The women also come together for company and to chat about everyday matters. The house belongs to Kadamalieva Tiramo, who tells us about the tradition.
My mother taught me the handicraft of the Pamiri as a child, so that I would always have a profession and be able to support myself. Today I do this work out of a sense of tradition. I'm passing my skills on to the next generation.
Mrs. Tiramo told us about a temple the women visit regularly. This aroused our curiosity, and so we followed behind the small group in their colourful garments. We soon noticed that the building in question was not a mosque. You would never see horned sheep or goats in a mosque. More likely on Buddhist Mani walls or an ancient cultic site. A huge set of ram's horns adorn the roof, and the horns of various animals can also be found in the interior of the freshly renovated temple. The women have brought gifts which they place in the temple for other visitors who might perhaps be hungry. This, we were told, is a place that dates back to a Sufi saint who lived in pre-Islamic days. Inside the temple, the women are now circling the altar, which is also adorned with animal horn relics. A cult that presumably goes back to the fire cult of the followers of Zarathustra. This fits in with the Persian influence on the culture of the Pamir. But what is astonishing, and at the same time wonderful, is that these traditional customs are practiced and tolerated so openly. The scenery is getting more and more beautiful. Ahead of us lies the Wakhan Corridor. The ruins of ancient fortresses testify to the importance of this historic route. Over 7,000 meters high, the mountains bear names like Marx, Engels, or communism. That is how the old Soviet Union honored its highest places. Belonging to the old Eastern Bloc saved these landscapes from mass tourism and has enabled so much to be preserved. In the villages along the Pamir Highway, visitors can find accommodation with families in what are known as homestays. We're spending the night with the Malik Mamadov family. The daughter of the house is getting our sleep quarters ready. It's perfectly natural for travellers to participate in the domestic activities of the guest family. It's a way of making contact. The meals are basic, but tasty. During the daytime, the cooking is done outside. As master of the house, Malik makes sure everything is clean and hygienic. Several women from the village have gathered in the courtyard. They're putting down tufts of dyed sheep's wool and carefully watering them. The colours are strikingly bright, beautiful and vibrant. This looks like a social activity. There are no definite rules or patterns. Everything seems improvised. But making felt carpets has tradition here. Meanwhile, inside the house, the cooking continues. At altitude, guests love lots of liquid. In other words, tasty soups with vegetables and rich cheese. Our host, Malik Mamadov, lends a hand and explains the homestay principle to us.
Here in the Pamir, the concept of the homestay or guest house, taking in travellers, in other words, tourists, and catering for them, was something totally new. Inviting outsiders like you into private homes and families and accepting them is something we first had to learn. Homestays are totally different from hotels because as long as guests stay, they live in the care and protection of the family. They are alone with the family and live in exactly the same way as a normal family in the Pamir. We try to show guests traditional Tajik hospitality in line with our traditions. We accept them as private people and treat them as such.
What Malik doesn't mention is the low price which travellers pay for clean beds, good food and hospitality. And it's wonderful and special for all involved when, as a traveller, you can experience something new. Like seeing how a felt carpet is made by hand. Calmly and skillfully, without machinery, chemicals or tools. But Malik knows full well that life for the women and their families is not easy.
The only problem we have in the villages, although it is a serious one, is the lack of infrastructure. Everything is so far away, and any jobs at all are poorly paid. There are no factories or other production facilities. That is why young people don't stay. They try to find at least temporary employment elsewhere. They also look for work abroad, but they do come back. Over the last 15 years, a lot of things have improved, but by no means everything. Here, too, people find different ways of earning money. It's really good if handicraft products from the Pamir can be sold directly to travellers without a middleman. In our case, like traditional carpets made from the wool from our own animals. Otherwise, people have to find different skills and talents for tackling their economic problems.
Had it not been for our host, we would probably never have heard about the celebrations taking place the next morning. As it is, however, we've been invited to attend a festival organised by the Ismaili community. Everyone has turned up. The old men sit together or engage in traditional games. The colourfully dressed women and children are enjoying the cheerful atmosphere. Young men and children are dancing. Young girls and older women, too, are moving around in public totally relaxed. Each in her own way has made herself pretty. The children, too, are all spruced up. Ismailis usually live in the mountain regions of Central Asia and are regarded as a cosmopolitan branch of Shiite Islam. The villagers have gathered here to celebrate the anniversary of the assumption of office of the 4th Aga Khan, the leader of the 15 million Ismailis worldwide. The atmosphere here is so peaceful, colourful, open and pleasant that we stayed far longer than we intended. The Pamir Highway now traverses passes over 4,000 metres high, constantly providing us with changing impressions and enchanting moods. Rugged cliffs alternate with the passage of white clouds. The Bactrian camels on the other side of the river are in Afghanistan. The Russian invasion of that crisis-ridden country is said to have started from here. The region was always of interest to armies, drug smugglers and spies. But it has always attracted friends of the mountains and nature enthusiasts as well. They love and respect the special atmosphere of the Pamir region, with its views of the Hindu Kush and Wakhan. Tajikistan is famous for its idyllic mountain lakes at high altitude. Geologists, ornithologists and archaeologists find a true El Dorado here. The members of one expedition, which by chance sought refuge in this cave 4,200 meters above sea level, discovered Stone Age paintings. Red mineral pigment was used for ritual images. Today, we no longer know what they represent. What is certain, however, is that human beings settled here several thousand years ago. Mukhab is a border town 3,600 meters above sea level in the High Pamir. For its 7,000 inhabitants, this is life at the limits. Mukhab lies at the same altitude as Lhasa, the capital of Tibet. Heavy trucks speed towards China along the dusty Pamir Highway. Hardly any of them stop to refuel or spend the night here. Tajiks wearing hats and children at play are very much part of the street scene in Mukhab. The crescent over the mosque and prayer chains in the hands of the elderly are the prevailing impressions. The town also has a garrison, which we're not allowed to film, and a market. The market stalls are set up in steel containers so that goods can also be sold in winter when the temperature can easily drop to more than 40 below. Living conditions here seem to be right on the edge of what is tolerable, and economic prospects are virtually non-existent. We found one young lady who was prepared to talk to us.
We don't have jobs, we don't have factory or something. We have only old people here. The youngest people, they leave us because we don't have jobs. And we don't have university to study. We have only high schools, and they'll go to another cities and other countries to study. Me too.
From Mukhab, the third highest peak in the Pamir, the Muztagh Ata, is visible. It lies in China. And China is what a lot of young people here have their sights set on.
I want to go to Guangzhou. Then first I want to learn language because the first learn Chinese language too easy there. Then I want to go to Shanghai, then Beijing, something like that. Yes, easy for us. Yes, easy for us. A visa is not too hard to get.
Whether Lenin would have liked that? In Mukhab, they've at least left his statue standing. But there again, you never know what the future holds. Anyone driving along the Pamir Highway experiences only part of the beauties of this comparatively unknown mountain region. Many of the tours and trekking routes that start here have to be experienced on foot. We travel on towards Kyrgyzstan. The passes are getting higher and higher, and the living conditions even more extreme. Here, families with their animals still climb to the summer pastures well over 4,500 meters above sea level. In winter, the clans that spend the summer up here live 2,000 meters further down, with television and the internet. Up here, life has remained unchanged. At this altitude, only yaks and goats are the only livestock that can survive. Their dung is collected and dried, a vital and time-consuming task. But the fuel is essential for heating the yurts, for cooking and for heating milk. In mountain regions like this, there are simply no alternatives. While the herds are still grazing on the pastures, the women attend to a large number of jobs. The sun can be powerful at altitude. Then the work is done inside the yurts. Today, ropes are being braided from yak hair. Good ropes are still needed for securing the yurts and fastening loads on yaks or trucks. What is more, quality ropes made from yak hair fetch top prices. The women enjoy their work and chat together in Kyrgyz. We're still in Tajikistan, but nomadic people who live here usually have Kyrgyz roots. The older women went to school in the days of the former Soviet Union. Back then, the attempt was made to domesticate the nomads and have them work on collective farms. Now it is again worthwhile moving up to the mountain pastures as a family to produce meat, dairy products and materials made from animal hair and hide. The work is hard. Apsamanova Asilkan tells us about it in Russian.
When we roam here in summer with our livestock, we milk the animals and heat the milk on our stoves. Then we beat it and separate the fat, which is then used to make sour cream. The next step is to pack the sour cream in porous sacks and hang them up overnight. By morning, all the water has drained out of the sacks and the sour cream inside is dry. We then use the sour cream to make our famous cheese balls, which are known here as kurut. They will keep in storage for quite a while. That is a lot of work in one day for us women. But it has to be done because when the livestock return in the evening, there is fresh milk again.
In the evening, the women keep their eyes open for the animals and their shepherds. The livestock has been out and about all day long, feeding on the last patches of grass on the mountain pastures. The animals arrive punctually and make for the yurts where their calves are waiting. They sense that their offspring are hungry and need to be fed. The nomads make use of the situation to tether their animals. The yaks offer no resistance. After all, their young are close by. This proximity stimulates lactation, and the women start to milk the cows. The size of the animals doesn't worry them, again because the nearness of the calves keeps the mothers calm. The noise is deafening and makes it perfectly clear just why yaks are also known as grunting oxen. The calves are waiting to be suckled. Sometimes a youngster is allowed a brief sip from its mother's udder. This makes the cow then easier to milk. The yaks don't seem to notice whether a calf is drinking or they are being milked. The mere proximity of the calves keeps them quiet. A lot of animals have to be attended to in a short space of time. This is only possible because of the trust that exists between the milkmaids and their husbands, and also their sons, who show great skill in handling the animals. Up here it gets dark and bitterly cold very quickly. The yak milk is carefully collected in cans. After all, it is the raw material for cheese production. When the cows have been milked, the calves are allowed to drink the rest. Their behavior towards their patient mothers is not exactly considerate. Before the sun disappears completely, the herds of goats also return from the slopes of the highest mountains. They have to be kept in enclosures with high stone walls. Wolves lie in wait for stray animals, and they feel more confident taking on a goat than a yak. At dawn, the animals leave the camp again to spend the whole day searching for food on the surrounding high pastures. They've already been milked once again. The long working day of the families on the summer pastures at a height of 4,500 meters begins with the first rays of sunlight. The mountain pasture is no Kolkats. The area and the pasturage are shared by several families. But each family has its own animals and thus its own yields with regard to milk and cheese production. The sour cream, which is now drained, is placed in handy portions on something akin to a baking tray and air-dried in the sun. What looks idyllic is hard work in thin air, in bitter cold in the morning, in hot weather at midday, and in dusty wind in the afternoon.
Yes, of course we miss a few things up here, like uninterrupted power supply. I come from Murgab. In the early 90s, I moved to Karakul, where they had electricity. In Soviet days, the power supply in the towns and villages was good. Up here, we only have electricity in the evening. Then our solar batteries provide what they have stored during the day. Before that, we had lamps or torches. We're happy to have had solar cells for a few years now.
The men and women from the various families share the heavy work. The pasteurization process is prepared in large vats. If certain bacteria are not killed off, the cheese won't keep, nor will it be tasty. The products from the mountain pastures are very much in demand and sell well. That is because the animals feed only on the finest grass and upland herbs. What is more, no chemicals or other foreign substances are added to the milk and the cheese. In order to pasteurize the whey, it's vital for the vat with the mixture of cheese and milk to be heated up with yak dung, but only briefly. And it must never boil. Such scenes are reminiscent of the books of Chingiz Aytmatov.
I know Aytmatov's book from my childhood in the Soviet Union. We had readings and the books were free. I loved his book, Jamilia, but also Akimeni and Gusarat. They are wonderful stories. I can't remember the names of other works by him. It's too long ago. But Aytmatov became really famous. He made our way of life well known. He told nomad stories in other countries too. That's all I know about Aytmatov.
A meteorite impact around 5 million years ago created numerous crater lakes in the Pamir. Karakul is the biggest of them. At this altitude, 4,000 meters above sea level, there is hardly any life. The Black Lake lies in a lunar landscape. From one country to another, the border between Tajikistan and Kyrgyzstan is a watershed. The scenery also changes. In Kyrgyzstan, the valleys are broader and the pastures greener. Instead of yaks and goats, there are herds of horses everywhere. What we know of Kyrgyz history is always associated with horse breeding and mounts of great staying power. In Soviet days, however, the attempt was made to get the Kyrgyz to change their nomadic ways. Today, nearly every family keeps a herd, even if they have other jobs and professions. Horses as far as the eye can see. They're sold for high prices, either as animals for riding or as meat delicatessen produce. One of the biggest horse populations can be found here along the Song Kul, a 280 square kilometre large freshwater lake in grassland at an altitude of 3,000 metres. Next to Lake Songkul, equestrian sports can be seen which used to be common in Central Asia. The focus is on the riding skills of young men as they battle for possession of a sheep or a goat. Whichever rider manages to pick the animal off the ground is chased. It's a situation shepherds here often experience. An animal gets lost, is stolen or killed. It then has to be recovered through skill and horsemanship. A goat is valuable. It is worth nearly $100, a lot of money here in the grasslands. In Kyrgyzstan, there are professional teams wearing armor who perform in arenas and earn lots of money. But whether it is there or here by Lake Songkul, the best rider earns respect and is ready to tell a new story about the origins of the game.
Originally, the game began with a wolf. A wolf was pulled to and fro on a horse and in the end thrown at the feet of rich men. That is why the game is known as Blue Wolf. The riders then lifted it up and put it in a huge vat made for boiling horse meat.
Travelling through Kyrgyzstan is easier and faster than travelling through Tajikistan. The Pamir lies behind us, and the infrastructure is decidedly modern. Isikkul is the world's second biggest freshwater lake. There is tourism here and a lakeside cultural park which calls for tolerance towards many schools of thought and religions. The pavilion in honour of Chingiz Aytmatov is a particular magnet for visitors. In view of the many conflicts in Central Asia, people here are in search of visions and perspectives. In this respect, particular importance is attached to Chingiz Aytmatov, as the curator of the park, Ayzada Yumakadirova, explains.
Describing Aytmatov's novel, Jamila, Louis Aragon once wrote, "I swear that this is the most beautiful love story in the world." And reading Aytmatov's works is so exciting. In my opinion, his works are of educational importance. They point out the right path. Take the story of Mankurt in the novel The Day Lasts More Than 100 Years. Mankurt stands for people who've been humiliated, mentally enslaved, and no longer have any will of their own. Mankurt was also a symbol of Stalinism. Sadly, this figure, which was created by Aytmatov, is still to be seen today. We live in the modern era. New technologies are emerging and many correlations are being turned upside down. In these times, people have to be careful not to become a mankurt. In other words, they must not forget their own history and culture. Chingiz Aytmatov also said, "The hardest thing for a human being is to stay a human being with each new day." And that is something we human beings, all of us, should think about.
Standing near the Aytmatov Pavilion are sculptures which describe aspects of his conception of man and which seem to have lasting significance. Ayzada Yumakadirova interprets the works of art for visitors and school classes.
This statue represents Boston, the man in the novel The Scaffold, in the face of a she-wolf grieving over her lost cubs. The nymph on the child's head signifies that offspring are sacred to parents, irrespective of whether we are talking about humans or animals. In this work, Aytmatov describes the relationship between people, animals, and nature, His most important message is that the offspring of both humans and animals is sacred for all creatures.
Along with sculptures of philosophers and scientists, the park also contains the symbols of all world religions. Christian, Jewish, Islamic and Buddhist symbols stand for religious tolerance. Not something to be taken for granted these days, but a fitting message after a journey through Central Asia on the Pamir Highway.